I think that everybody that makes a statement about Andrew now has to mention they have full and great sympathies with the victims of abuse. And in this case, when it said their majesties, I suppose people need to be reminded that Camilla, Queen Camilla, is very active in the area of abused women. And it is one of her charities. And she actually made a film about some of the women that were suffering from abuse and had to leave home and their families and take their families with them and set up lives in a shelter to start with. So Camilla feels very strongly about this, and obviously her opinion counts a great deal to the king. But this was a very, very important regal, if you like, a regal decision made by the king as head of state and as sovereign, saying that he basically meaning that he was no longer going to put up with his brother's shenanigans about whether he was going to go or not go. He'd already offered him Frogmore Cottage, which Andrew refused. And he has had to act decisively because this story was detracting from the business of government, and the monarchy are very careful to try not to do that. It's happened in the past when Charles and Diana separated. That's all everyone talked about. That was the news. And this story has almost overtaken that. This is what people are talking about. This is the news. And that's not how the monarchy should be working. So it was important that the king made this decision with the help of his advisors and obviously with the help of his wife. I don't think the campaign group Republic would be a catalyst. I think the catalyst was a lot of things happening at once. Andrew's reluctance or willingness to move out voluntarily, all kinds of other problems were coming to light. And, there was going to be questions in Parliament. There was going to be this Republic, as you said, the group Republic wanted him to be answerable. There were too many things happening. And also it was the general, but basically it was the general feeling of the nation over which, King Charles is the head, that they wanted an answer for Andrew. They wanted him out of a royal property. They wanted him absolutely nothing to do with the taxpayer. So therefore he had to be off the Crown estates. And as Andrew has shown very little remorse for all the problems he's caused, I'm not saying, because he always says that he is innocent, so one has to remind people of that. But as he has shown very little remorse, in fact, no remorse at all, I think that he has really lost any kind of appeal that he might have had. And he's actually endangering the good name of the monarchy. Well, I'm sure that Andrew feels utterly distraught, miserable, humiliated, ashamed. Well, hopefully he feels all those things. I'm sure that he does. And I think that he has no choice. He's had to be, metaphorically booted out of his own home, which isn't a very pleasant thing to happen to anyone. And but his brother is going to provide him with a home, in the privacy of a royal estate where it's absolutely nothing to do with anyone else. His brother will also have to pay for him for the rest of his life, and look after him. Hopefully Andrew will learn some humility from this, and maybe he will go on and do some of the things that when this first broke, he said he would do, and he was going to work on behalf of charities that supported, abused women. But we haven't seen any of that. Maybe we'll see something of that in the future. Maybe he will become a changed man. But at the moment, he's still in Royal Lodge. We have to wait for him to move. But there will be a lot of pressure, from his brother's advisors to get him out as quickly as possible. I would imagine that Fergie's always had a huge number of friends, and I'm sure her friends will be rallying round her now when she will really, really need them. Um, and she will, I'm sure, lean on them at this moment. And she, her two daughters will be supporting her as well. So I think Fergie realizes that she actually has to distance herself from Andrew. I would be very surprised if she doesn't, and move off and get on with her own life instead of having it attached to him. Of course, she feels a great deal of loyalty for him, especially in his hour of need. But I don't think it's going to help him having her uh, around his neck as well. I think she needs to move away from it all and give her her children a chance to at least try and help their mother if they can't help their father. Well, I think that I'm sure Prince William is thinking in unison with his father. We don't know how much he's had to do with this, if anything. I think this was really a problem that his father had to deal with. He couldn't ask his son to deal with his own brother. It had to be something that the king dealt with. Of course, I'm sure he's got the full support of the Prince of Wales, but I feel this is very much the hand of the king, and it had to be the hand of the king. It couldn't be the Prince of Wales. Um, and I think that the family will all stand together. It doesn't mean that Andrew won't have supporters amongst the family. I think he'll have a lot of sympathy from his family. Um, but I think that we are not going to see any evidence of that in the immediate future.